What if the direction of your entire life is already being shaped by something invisible? Something you cannot touch but experience every single moment of the day. Your thoughts. The truth is, your life does not suddenly change by accident or luck. It slowly moves in the direction of your thinking long before anything becomes visible in your reality. Every decision you make, every emotion you feel, and every result you experience starts from a place every single day. Thousands of thoughts pass through your awareness. Some of them strengthen you, pushing you toward growth, while others quietly weaken your confidence and hold you back without you even realizing it. Over time, these repeated thoughts do not remain just thoughts. They begin to shape your beliefs. And once a belief is formed, it starts influencing your actions. And those actions eventually create the results you see in your life. This is why success is never something that starts on the outside. It does not begin with money, opportunity, or even talent. It begins internally, in the way you think about yourself and the world around you. If the mind is not aligned, everything else becomes unstable. That is why it is impossible to build a truly positive life while carrying a consistently negative mindset. Now, positive thinking is often misunderstood. It does not mean ignoring problems or pretending that difficulties do not exist. It is not about living in imagination or denying reality. Instead, real positive thinking is the ability to face challenges while still believing they can be overcome. It is the mindset that setbacks are not final, but temporary lessons that can guide you toward something better. What you believe plays a direct role in what you choose to do, and what you consistently do determines the type of person you eventually become. That means your belief system is silently designing your future every single day, whether you are aware of it or not. Think about two individuals who face the exact same challenge. One immediately decides it is impossible and gives up before trying. The other acknowledges the difficulty but believes there is a way forward and starts searching for solutions. The situation is identical, but the thinking is completely different. And that difference leads to This is the real power of the mind. If it is filled with doubt, hesitation becomes your default response. If it is filled with fear, you begin to stop before even attempting. But if it is filled with possibility, you naturally start taking action, even when things are uncertain. Success is often described as something mysterious or lucky, but in reality, it is far more predictable than people think. It is not magic. It is not random chance. It is the result of discipline and consistent effort applied over time. However, even hard work becomes easier when your mindset is working with you instead of against you. The biggest battle a person faces in life is not external. It is internal. It is the constant struggle between fear and faith, doubt and belief, limitation and possibility. Every choice you make strengthens one side of that battle, and whichever side becomes stronger ultimately determines the direction of your life. This is why understanding your thinking is not optional, it is essential. Because before anything becomes real in your external world, it first exists as a thought in your internal world. Long before success is visible, it is first imagined, believed, and mentally accepted as possible. A person does not achieve success and then suddenly develop the mindset for it. Instead, they first develop a mindset that believes success is possible, and then their actions gradually bring it into reality. That is how transformation actually works. If you observe carefully, you will notice that every outcome in life traces back to a chain that begins with thought. A thought becomes a belief becomes an action, actions form habits, and habits eventually shape your entire life. Nothing escapes this pattern. This is why your dominant thoughts matter more than most people realize. Because whatever dominates your thinking will eventually dominate your behavior, and your behavior determines your future. You are not just thinking thoughts randomly, you are building a direction for your life. Imagine your mind as a garden, every day. Seeds are being planted, whether you are aware of it or not. Some of these seeds are empowering, like confidence, discipline, and growth. Others are limiting, like fear, doubt, and hesitation. Whatever you repeatedly allow to grow will eventually define the landscape of your life. If you constantly tell yourself that you are not good enough or that failure is unavoidable, those thoughts do not stay harmless. They slowly influence how you behave. You begin to avoid opportunities, delay actions, and hesitate when decisions are needed. Not because you lack ability, but because your thinking has convinced you to stay small. Over time, That internal pattern becomes your external reality. Your life starts reflecting the same thoughts you repeat daily. This is not coincidence, it is cause and effect. Thought always comes before result, but the opposite is also true. If a person begins to think in terms of learning, improvement, and possibility, their behavior naturally shifts. They may still face challenges, but instead of stopping, they continue trying. Instead of giving up, they adapt. And that persistence slowly builds a completely different outcome. This is where positive thinking becomes powerful. Not because it removes difficulty, but because it changes your response to difficulty. It keeps you engaged in the process, instead of withdrawing from it. And this engagement is what ultimately leads to progress, because success does not come from avoiding challenges. It comes from moving through them repeatedly until growth becomes inevitable. One of the most important truths about success is that it is not defined by the absence of problems, but by how you interpret those problems when they appear. Life does not become easier for successful people. They simply learn to think differently when difficulty shows up. And that difference in thinking changes everything about their outcome. Every human being faces obstacles. No one is exempt from challenges, setbacks, or moments of uncertainty. But what separates progress from stagnation is not the situation itself, but the meaning you assign to it. Two people can go through the exact same experience, yet walk away with completely different lessons and results. One person looks at a challenge and immediately decides it is a sign to stop. They interpret difficulty as failure, and failure as proof that they are not capable. The other person sees the same challenge and asks a completely different question: what can I learn from this? And how can I move forward from here? This shift in perspective is not small. It is life-defining, because the questions you ask determine the direction of your thinking, and your thinking determines the quality of your decisions. A limiting question keeps you stuck in fear, while an empowering question pushes you toward growth and solutions. Obstacles are not designed to destroy you. They are part of the process that shapes you. Without resistance, there is no development. Without challenge, there is no strength. Just like muscles grow through resistance, the mind also grows through pressure and problem solving. Think about nature itself. A tree that grows in complete absence of wind becomes weak because it never develops resistance. But a tree that constantly faces wind grows stronger roots to survive. In the same way, the pressures in your life are not signs of failure. They are conditions for growth. The problem is that most people do not look deep enough. They focus only on the surface level of difficulty and miss the opportunity hidden inside it. Instead of asking what this situation is trying to teach them, they immediately try to escape it. And in doing so, they miss the lesson entirely. Successful people behave differently. They do not rush to label challenges as bad or unfair. Instead, they slow down and examine them. They look for patterns, lessons, and opportunities hidden within the struggle. Where others see a dead end, they see a turning point. This is why perspective is more powerful than circumstances. Your situation may be fixed in the short term, but your interpretation of it is always within your control. And that interpretation is what determines your next move. Now consider how most people react under pressure. Their first instinct is often to ask, why is this happening to me? This question creates a feeling of victimhood. It makes the situation feel personal, permanent, and overwhelming. And once the mind enters that state, it becomes harder to think clearly. But high performers, or those who consistently grow in life, shift the question entirely. Instead of why me, they ask, what can I do next? This single change opens the mind. It turns attention from the problem to the solution. And that is where progress begins. Because once the mind starts searching for solutions, it begins to notice possibilities that were always there, but previously ignored. The focus determines what you see, and what you see determines what you act on. Many people underestimate how powerful this internal search system is. If you believe there are no answers, your mind stops looking. But if you believe there is a way forward, your mind becomes active, alert, and creative in finding it. This is why mindset is not just about motivation. It is about perception. It influences what you notice, what you ignore, and what you believe is possible. Two people can be in the same environment, yet experience completely different realities, simply because their thinking is different. When challenges come, they do not arrive to define your limits. They arrive to reveal how you respond under pressure. And that response is shaped entirely by your internal dialogue, the thoughts you repeat to yourself in moments of difficulty. If your inner voice constantly says, "I cannot do this," your actions will slow down. You will hesitate, avoid risk, and gradually step back from opportunity. But if your inner voice says, "This is difficult, but I can learn," your behavior shifts toward persistence. And persistence is often the real difference between success and failure. Many people are not unsuccessful because they lack ability. They are unsuccessful because they stop too early. They quit at the exact moment progress is about to begin. Positive thinking plays a critical role here, not because it removes struggle, but because it keeps you engaged during struggle. It prevents your mind from collapsing under pressure, and instead encourages you to keep trying, adjusting, and learning. Every setback, when viewed correctly, contains information. It shows you what did not work and quietly points toward what might work next. But you only gain that value if you stay in the process long enough to see it. This is why success is rarely about sudden breakthroughs. It is usually the result of consistent effort through repeated challenges. And those who continue despite difficulty eventually build momentum that others never experience. Over time, this mindset creates a powerful shift. Instead of fearing obstacles, you begin to respect them. Instead of avoiding challenges, you start engaging with them. And instead of stopping when things get hard, you learn to adapt and continue forward. It is about developing the mental strength to move through them without losing direction. And that strength is built through perspective, belief, and consistent effort. At some point, every person realizes that thinking alone is not enough. Ideas, belief, and motivation may start the journey, but they cannot complete it on their own. There is a missing link between thought and achievement, and that link is action. Without action, even the strongest mindset remains incomplete and inactive. Many people misunderstand positive thinking. They assume it means simply believing things will improve, or hoping that success will eventually arrive. But hope without effort creates nothing. Thought without movement stays locked inside the mind. Life does not respond to intention alone. It responds to what you actually do. This is why action is often described as the bridge between imagination and reality. On one side, you have your thoughts, ideas, and dreams. On the other side, you have results, achievements, and outcomes. And the only thing that connects both sides is consistent action taken over time. Consider two individuals who both think positively and both believe in success. In mindset, they are almost identical, but the difference appears in behavior. One person begins to act even in small steps. The other waits, planning for the perfect moment that never arrives. Over time, their paths separate completely. The person who acts starts building experience. They learn from mistakes, adjust their approach, and slowly improve. The person who waits remains stuck in theory, imagining progress, but never actually experiencing it. And that difference eventually becomes the difference between success and stagnation. Action is what transforms potential into reality. A goal without action is simply a wish. It may feel powerful in thought, but it has no effect on the real world until effort is applied. This is why successful people are not just thinkers. They are doers who consistently translate thoughts into behavior. Now, here is something important to understand. Positive thinking gives direction, but action produces results. Thinking helps you see where you want to go, but action is what physically moves you forward. Without action, direction is meaningless. However, action is not always easy, because human behavior is heavily influenced by feelings. Many people wait to feel ready, motivated, or inspired before they take action. But feelings are unstable. They change from day to day, sometimes even hour to hour. If you depend on feelings, your progress will always be inconsistent. This is why discipline matters more than emotion. Discipline is the ability to act even when motivation is low. It is the decision to continue regardless of how you feel in the moment. And it is this consistency that creates long-term success. Successful people understand this deeply. They do not rely on sudden bursts of inspiration. Instead, they build habits and systems that keep them moving even when motivation fades. Their success is not based on occasional effort, but on repeated effort done daily. Small actions, when repeated consistently, become powerful over time. Reading a few pages daily, practicing a skill regularly, or taking one small step toward a goal may seem insignificant in the moment. But when compounded, these actions create massive change. This is the real nature of success. It is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in quiet, consistent repetition. The difference between average and extraordinary is often not talent, but consistency in action. When positive thinking and action work together, something powerful happens. Thought gives you belief. As you take action, you begin to see results, even small ones. Those results strengthen your belief, and stronger belief pushes you to take even more action. This creates a cycle. Positive thoughts lead to positive actions. Positive actions lead to positive results, and positive results reinforce stronger thinking. Over time, this cycle builds momentum, and that momentum becomes growth. But if either part is missing, the cycle breaks. Thinking without action leads to frustration. Action without belief leads to burnout. Only when both are aligned does real progress become sustainable. It is also important to understand that you do not need perfect thinking or perfect action to succeed. Waiting for perfection often becomes another form of delay. What truly matters is consistency. Even imperfect action, when repeated, produces movement and learning. Every successful person you observe has gone through this process. They did not start perfectly. They started uncertain, made mistakes, adjusted, and kept going. Their success is not the result of perfection, but persistence. Now think about how life actually changes. It does not change in one dramatic moment. It changes through small decisions repeated every day. The way you think, the way you act, and the habits you maintain slowly shape the direction of your future. This is why daily discipline is more powerful than occasional effort. One strong day does not build a strong life. A series of consistent days does, and each day you choose action over delay. You move closer to your goals. Ultimately, success is not something that arrives suddenly. It is something that is built quietly through repeated effort, guided by belief, and powered by discipline. And when action becomes a habit, progress becomes natural. If you observe closely, you will notice that your life is shaped far more by what you repeatedly expose your mind to than by any single decision you make. Every day, your thoughts are being influenced, your beliefs are being formed, and your mindset is being shaped by what you allow into your mental space. This is why the quality of your life is directly connected to the quality of your mental input. What you watch, what you listen to, what you read, and the conversations you engage in, all slowly build the foundation of how you think. Over time, this input becomes your internal voice. Many people do not realize that their environment is constantly shaping them, even when they are not paying attention. You may think you are simply consuming content or having casual conversations. Environment is filled with doubt and negativity. Life always reflects what is happening internally, even if the connection is not immediately obvious. This is why guarding your mind is not optional. It is essential. Your thoughts are not random. They are influenced by everything you allow in, and if you are not intentional about that process, you will slowly become shaped by external forces without realizing it. The truth is, you cannot control every situation around you, but you can control what you allow to influence you internally. That control is powerful, because it determines how you interpret everything that happens in your life. Two people can experience the same environment, but live completely different mental reality. One sees limitations everywhere, while the other sees possibilities. One expects failure, while the other expects growth. The difference is not the environment, but the mindset shaped by input. Over time, this internal conditioning becomes your identity. It influences how you react, how you decide, and how you move forward in life. That is why changing your external world often starts with changing your internal input. If you want better results, you must first feed your mind better material. If you want stronger thinking, you must expose yourself to stronger ideas. If you want a disciplined life, you must consistently engage with disciplined thinking. Because what you repeatedly consume becomes what you eventually express. And what you express becomes the life you live. This is not theory, it is a pattern that operates silently but consistently in every human life. So the question becomes simple but powerful. What are you allowing into your mind every day? Is it building you or breaking you? Is it pushing you forward or holding you back? The answer to that question will eventually show up in your results. Everything in life eventually comes down to patterns. Not one single moment defines your future, but the repeated choices you make every day. Your thoughts, your discipline, your reactions, and your habits slowly combine to create the direction of your life. Whether you notice it in the moment or not, we have explored how thinking shapes belief, how belief shapes action, how action creates results, and how your environment influences your mindset. When you put all of this together, one truth becomes clear. Success is not an accident. It is a consistent pattern built over time through repeated behavior. Success is often misunderstood as something sudden or lucky, but in reality, it is the result of discipline applied over and over again. It is not about one big effort. It is about small efforts done consistently, even when motivation is low and progress feels slow. This is why your daily choices matter more than you think. Every decision to focus or to delay, to act or to wait, to learn or to ignore, is shaping the life you are building. These choices may feel small in the moment, but over time they become the structure of your entire future. Many people underestimate this process because the results are not immediate. But life does not respond instantly to thoughts or actions. It responds gradually through what you repeat today becomes your reality tomorrow. That is why discipline is more powerful than motivation. Motivation may start the process, but it cannot sustain it. Discipline is what keeps you moving when energy drops and enthusiasm fades. And it is consistency that turns effort into achievement. If you want a different life, you must first accept that change begins within you. Not in your circumstances, not in your environment, but in the way you think, the way you act, and the way you respond to challenges. Positive thinking is not about denying reality. It is about choosing a mindset that looks for solutions instead of staying stuck in problems. It is about believing that growth is possible, even when things are difficult, and that belief directly influences your behavior. But belief alone is not enough. It must be followed by action, because action is what transforms ideas into results. Without action, even the strongest mindset remains incomplete. With action, even small thoughts can become powerful outcomes. The combination of positive thinking and consistent action is what creates real transformation. One gives direction, the other gives movement. One builds belief, the other builds results. And together, they create momentum that gradually changes your life. Over time, this momentum compounds. Small improvements lead to bigger improvements. Small habits lead to stronger habits. And eventually, what once felt difficult becomes part of who you are. That is how lasting success is built. It is also important to understand that setbacks are not failures. They are part of the process. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to learn, adjust, and grow stronger. The key is not to avoid difficulties, but to continue moving through them. Because success is not about never falling. It is about continuing after every fall. The people who achieve meaningful results are not the ones who never struggle, but the ones who refuse to stop when things get hard. So instead of asking why problems exist, start asking what they are teaching you. Instead of focusing on limitations, start focusing on possibilities. Instead of quitting when things become difficult, learn to adapt and continue forward. In the end, your life is not shaped by one event. It is shaped by what you repeat every single day. The thoughts you entertain, the actions you take, and the discipline you maintain all come together to create your future. So choose carefully. Think with intention, act with purpose. Protect your mind from negativity. Build discipline in your habits, and stay consistent, even when progress feels slow. Because success is not a destination you suddenly arrive at. It is a direction you move toward, one decision at a time. And if you stay committed to that direction, your results will eventually reflect your effort.